Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Hub Underground. Matt Dolph here with Ty Anderson, as we are every single episode. You can get us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, RSS feed, but you can also get every episode at 985thesportshub.com and the Sports Hub app. We are sometimes on YouTube, and so this is a remote episode. If you are listening on audio, you prefer us on YouTube, go pop over on YouTube, and then you can find us in video form. So, Ty, good to see you. We promised the people another episode before I effed off for another several days of vacation time as we get through the end of the year there. How are you holding up over there?
What is going on? I'm doing all right. You know, it's cold out. Bruins just did the central road trip before Christmas, like they have done now for feels like 5 years in a row. Yeah, you know, we're getting through it. It's the dog days of the season, I think, are officially upon us, I would say.
Yeah, we're past Thanksgiving. We kind of have an idea of what the Bruins are, even if you want to go to the Celtics route, what they are. We can talk about the Patriots if you want at some point in the show, because I was actually there yesterday for that tough loss and the implications out of it. But yeah, my commentary on what's that?
I mean, with the Patriots game, I'm okay with that loss. As weird as that sounds, I didn't like the idea of them going in on a 13-game win streak or whatever it would be. I'm okay with that in a weird way. I don't love the way it all happened, but I feel like that's something that might be valuable, right? Because I just don't love the idea of a team going in on a 13 game winning streak in the playoffs. Something about that. Maybe it's the Bruins in me that's saying that, but that 22-23 team, things were too good for too long. And then when things went wrong, they were like, we haven't been here in a while. Don't know how to work out of this. I kind of like a late season loss every now and then. I think what was it? Was the 2014 Patriots, I want to say, had that late season loss at Lambeau, the Green Bay game.
Yeah, they lost in Green Bay that year.
And they were fine, you know, they ended up working through it, right? They ended up going on a little bit of a run there. And so I look at that and go, sometimes those things are okay.
Yeah, no, I was saying something similar to Barth on our podcast last night. That's being a rational sports fan. That's being a realistic sports fan and just looking at history. I think that's a completely fair take to have. I think you're just kind of lost in fan land if you're saying, nope, we can't lose another game the rest of the way. They're going to go wire to wire. They're going to go all the way to the championship. No problem. They're going to win another 6 Super Bowls, Ty. No, yeah. I'm not saying anyone actually said that, but yeah, this season, it was almost going a little too well for the Patriots. So I was saying, Barth, silver lining from that game is that I'm glad they got punched in the mouth and got sort of a reality check now, as opposed to they're in the wild card round. It's like, oh, it's just the Houston Texans. Who cares? What's there to be afraid of? And then the Texans do basically the same thing that the Bills just did yesterday, and to lose the playoffs. And so it was good to get a wake-up call in December rather than at the last game of the year. And the wire-to-wire thing, that never happens. The Bruins had the best regular season ever a couple of years ago, lost in the first round.
Right.
Something like the 2018 Red Sox, or even I look at the 03 Patriots, because they had that long win streak that went into the next season. They finished the season on a 14-game win streak or something crazy like that. But even that team had a rough September. They had some shit to figure out at the beginning of the season. You got to get punched in the mouth at some point. You got to take that punch in the mouth and then reset and sort of reassess and refocus and all that. I was telling Barth, I kind of want to play. I want to blame Travis Scott for that loss yesterday, because they got outscored 35-10 after they showed Travis Scott on the Jumbotron. Stephon Diggs celebrating, everyone acting like it's all a party, game's over. We should just go home right now. Actually, let's beat the traffic right now. They're up 21-0. They're not going to lose this Patriots season. They're never going to lose. So it was good to get a good dose of reality. Barth had a good retort. I would have rather it happened with the Ravens game than the Bills game. So fair point. But I completely agree with you. You gotta get punched in the mouth from time to time. The battle tested thing, maybe a little overrated. You don't want to have the hardest schedule in the league or anything like that, but you gotta take a punch in the mouth from time to time if you actually want to win a championship. You gotta realize you gotta get a dose of the reality on how hard it actually is to win in this league. And if you wanted to transition to the Bruins got that kind of wake up call 2 years ago. But I look back on that team and I said, I wish they did have some adversity before the playoffs, as opposed to finally getting punched in the mouth against Florida, because that's just not. You don't want your season to end that way. And so good for the Patriots. We'll see how maybe the Bruins will be the team punching someone else in the mouth this year.
Yeah, I just think that I think you need adversity. No one is too good for that, and I think even like I go back to the '07 Patriots undefeated season. Now this team obviously wasn't undefeated, but you need something every now and then, just to kind of stoke that competitive fire and to get you realizing you're not as good as your record or your press clippings or the TikTok highlight reels are going to tell you. And so I hope they use this as the right way of bouncing back, and I think they should under Mike Vrabel. I think Mike Vrabel's been good about like kind of saying like we're not as good as we think we are. I think he's pushed that button a few times, but now it's like, all right, now you're really not as good as you think you are. Like it's easy for him to say it when you're winning, but now you lost a game. It's like, hey, just a reminder, guys, like we got things we got to work on. And so, what I hated about that game though is just the NFL, Matt, is becoming a joyless experience for me because I know when the flags are coming. I just know it now. And it's become a very frustrating experience, I think, in that regard, where, there were a couple plays yesterday where it's just late flags or I'm like, can we let them play a little bit? And I thought Jake wrote about that on the website. You got to let us play. That's how I feel. You got to let football players decide the game. I don't want old men in stripes to decide, how the game is going to go. I hate talking about officiating, and I hate talking about that. Yes, the Patriots played like absolute shit in the second half, but that's quite a bailout on that fourth and 3, whatever it was, that pass interference. You're like, oh, come on. Like, can I let football players play football games, please? That's what I want.
I agree with that last part of that. I just don't. I'm trying to like almost always not blame the refs. And sometimes sometimes a call is so bad that like it's like, all right, fine, I got to make this argument right now. I got to be this guy where it's like I'm not blaming the refs, even though it was like clearly, obviously cost the team the game at the end. Like, I just try to adhere to that principle because I think there's no lower form of sports talk than complaining about officiating. Like anytime your team loses, well, of course the refs, help cost us the game there. Patriots gave up 5 straight touchdowns defensively, and then they had multiple chances offensively to answer them, stay ahead of them, and they just they played like shit, like you said. It's like I just find it hard to blame John Hussey. The most valid complaint is how just them inserting themselves into the game, which I guess is kind of the same thing. But like, can you just let them play? I think is a fair point where it's like, can you not make yourself? Don't make me talk about you. I don't want to have to talk about you. I want to be able to get through an entire podcast without mentioning you at all. But of course, they did just enough between futzing around with the play clock there and the game clock. John Hussey, I swear to God, has a fetish for resetting the game clock. Every time I see a John Hussey game, please reset the game clock to 40 seconds. Oh, thank you. That feels so good.
What's funny about it though is that
I just hate talking about officials.
No, I agree. And what's funny about that though is that if you go back to the game in Buffalo earlier this year, Buffalo fans were saying the same thing where they thought in the final drive, who was got like mugged by one of the Patriots guys in the secondary in the final drive, and that's kind of how the Pats won the game. Like, it's just kind of, I hate talking about officiating. I hate talking about it, and I think sports in general have a gigantic officiating problem where there's too much game management kind of officiating versus like, this is the right call. It's like, well, this happened earlier, so I got to do it now. And it's like, well, how about you just get it right the first time?
I think the one, that pass interference on Carlton Davis where he just kind of made a light tug at the guy's jersey.
Yeah.
From behind. Like, that was extremely ticky-tack, but it was also way late. And I get the sense that the ref was like waiting to see what happened on the play.
Right.
Where it's like, if he caught the ball, okay, well, then there's no need to throw the flag. Oh, he didn't catch the ball. Okay, now I'm going to throw the flag. Where it's like, you're making calls for the wrong reasons there. And it's not that you're making the call because you want the Bills to win or anything like that. It's just you're making the call because of, like you said, like, well, in the interest of time, or I don't need to throw the flag here. How about you just make the right calls and let the guys play, and don't like use your discretion in the sense that, well, that didn't really affect the play at all. which it didn't. Like that tug by Carlton Davis, I'm not sure the receiver even felt that. So that like there was no need to throw the flag for either reason. But I think the ref was just waiting to see how it played out, and then throwing the flag based on the result of the play rather than what happened on the play.
Yeah, and I think
calls for the wrong reasons.
I think a great example of that too is in the Bruins game, the Bruins Wild game last night, and it has no bearing on the final result of the game because it's a blowout loss for the Bruins, blowout win for the Wild. But Matthew Boldy thinks he scored. He thinks that the puck went in the net. It didn't. But the Wild are celebrating. The puck goes off the crossbar and goes out the other way. The Bruins pounce on it, and the Bruins, because the Wild are celebrating, might have a freaking 4-0 going the other way. But the referee goes, no goal, and he stops play. That's not the rule. The rule, if it didn't go in, and the ref is saying it didn't go in, if it went in, the situation room will sound the horn, will stop play, and they'll review it. That never happened. Let the play out. Instead, they blow it dead when the Bruins could have a 4-0 going the other way, basically. And then the refs huddle up and say, it's a goal. And it's like, wait a minute. You just said no goal. You just stopped playing because you said it was no goal. Then they go to the video review. Oh, it's actually hit the crossbar. It's no goal. Now it's an offensive zone faceoff for Minnesota. You're like, what the hell is happening right now? Why is this like it's just, I feel like officiating has never been worse across all sports. And it doesn't mean that it's a conspiracy. It just means that they're bad. I think games have never been faster. Athletes have never been better, and the referees can't keep up, and it's killing sports, in my opinion. I hate it so much.
Yeah, I think it is. That's definitely a big part of it. The fact that everyone's faster, and there's never been more bang plays in history. Like you watch an old NHL game from like the 70s, like other than Bobby Orr and Guy Lafleur, like the speed was not there. The guys were kind of lumbering along.
Right.
Plays developed, horizontally rather than just everyone going north-south. And like the games were, I think, much easier to officiate back then because of the lack of speed and, the north-south stuff. But I think it's also the technology too. Like we can see every blade of grass. We can see every little inch of snow on the ice now. And so like now everyone can see plainly when a bad call was made, where I think back in the day, they also probably got away with a lot of bad calls, no calls, because they didn't have the TV replay or anything like that. And like a reporter isn't necessarily going to be able to see from all the way up in the press box what the hell's going on. He probably can't see through the cigarette smoke at that point in the game. But like, yeah, I think like nowadays everybody's got the technology. We're all seeing the replay, so we can all see it. And at the same time, the actual game on the field, this is kind of the funny dichotomy that I think of it. The game on the field is so fast. Everything's so bang, bang. But then we see the replay and it's a 1,000th of the speed, every frame, every little pixel. We can see everything. So it's like,
right.
They got to figure out like what's the best approach there. Like what can we do to fix the officiating on the field, on the ice, which I think is still ultimately the biggest problem. These problems happen in the first place because they're making the wrong decision in real time. So they got to figure out a solution there, make better decisions in real time, and try the best balance of like using the technology and all that stuff.
Yeah, or they got to find ways to tweak the rules a little bit so that penalties are not so game deciding. I'm a big fan of what college football does with pass interference, where it's not a spot foul, it's 15 yards, because I think that oftentimes, like, I think especially now you're seeing pass interference is more of a bailout, much like the offsides challenge in the NHL is a bailout, where it's like, well, throw it up there and see what happens, and it's like, oh yeah, you're right. We saw, there's a little bit of a tug. It's like, it's touch football. What do you like? Yeah, it's tackle football. What do you mean? Yeah, there's gonna be contact, man. I don't know what to tell you. I think that's something too that I would like to see them change, but who knows if they ever will. Oh, hi Grimm, how you doing, kid? All right,
what's up there? Grimm's going for something. Again, audio listeners, pop over to YouTube to see Grimm's latest cameo.
Yeah.
Smelled a bird up there or something. She reached up there. There's got to be something. Or maybe there was something on the outside the window there.
Yeah, she's been cackling at birds all day. So, I mean, yeah, it's kind of how it goes. Now she's leaving. All right. See you later, Grimm.
Standard day. Day. Where were we? Oh, yeah. The pass interference thing. What I think is that, like, they could have, like, 2 levels of pass interference. Like, there's a level 1 where it's 15 yards. And then you have a second level where it's a spot foul because the the problem I would see with only making it 15 yards. Because if it's like 50 yards down the field and you're in a one-on-one situation and you're the cornerback, you might as well just tackle the guy. You might as well just punch him in the face. And so, like, if you do that, then it's a spot foul. Otherwise, it's 15 yards. I feel like they could do something like that.
Yeah, it's like basketball.
Yeah, like, but to your point, like making it a 50-yard spot foul over a little tug of the jersey that the guy didn't even feel.
Yeah,
there's just something wrong with that. A lot of calls being made, or that aren't even in the spirit of the rule and how the game is played. Right.
The one yesterday that confused the piss out of me was the one where it's like it's a catch. I'm like, no, it's not. He didn't catch the ball. They were like, no, he caught it. I'm like, he definitely didn't. I just saw it. He did not catch that ball.
Yeah, not only did he not catch it, Marcus Jones took it away from him. And
Right.
Could have had an interception. And they called pass interference and a catch and a declined pass interference.
I was just like, no.
It's opposite day. It was opposite day for the Reds.
1984. It's like they've always been our friend. That's always been a catch. I was like, no.
Yeah.
It's wrong.
Wrong. Yeah, wrong. You were supposed to prevent the stabbing, and then I would nurse you back to health.
Yeah. So anyways, that was my experience watching sports yesterday. So there we are. But I think bringing it on home to the Boston Bruins, a 6-2 loss to the Minnesota Wild in Minnesota. I don't think they've ever played well in Minnesota, like my entire life. I feel like they've always been bad there.
Yeah. Back to the North Stars days when you were like 5.
No, I don't remember the North Stars. I only remember the Minnesota Wild and the Dallas Stars. I don't think I was ever alive. When did the North Stars move? 94?
I think 94 is my guess.
Yeah, I was 2 years old, so I'm not going to remember that.
Yeah, you
So, no, but even going back to when they had like, who's that coach they had? Jacques Lemaire. Even when they had Jacques Lemaire, like they never played well in Minnesota. Actually, I looked after the game, the Minnesota Wild provided some post-game notes. Actually, the Minnesota Wild have the best record against the Boston Bruins among any NHL franchise ever. Minimum 10 games played. They are their nemesis. They are their bugaboo for whatever reason. And then they acquire Quinn Hughes, and it's like, oh, okay. So they're walking into an absolutely reloaded Wild team now, feeling the buzz, feeling the juice of that team. They got 2 elite goaltenders too, Jesper Wallstedt and Philip Gustafsson. They've been phenomenal this year. They've been so good for that team.
Wallstedt was the top prospect at the position, right? And he's bursting onto the scene here, right?
I actually don't. That's a great question. I actually don't know where he was prospect wise. He seemingly came out of nowhere. Like at least in my respect, but at the same time, like I have to be fully honest. I'm not super up on Minnesota prospect pool rankings and what have you. It's just
I only know
they're a franchise I avoid for whatever reason.
Yeah. Oh well, I only know because I was doing like fantasy research last year, like because for a keeper league, so it's like you got to draft prospects in a league like that. I was like, I've never heard of this Wallstedt, but they're talking about him like he's the next friggin' Lundqvist. So
well, I hope you got Brandon Bussey out of Carolina, the way he's going right now.
I did,
prospect, yeah. I mean, it's kind of wild that's happening. Goaltenders come out of nowhere, so like, it's kind of funny, right? Like the Golden Knights decided to sign Carter Hart, right? And there's obviously all the drama involving him, rightfully so. The court case and all of that, but like, I was kind of laughing throughout the whole process of being like, why are you even inviting this? I'm like, this is a guy who was considered like the top prospect for so many years, right? And then you saw him and like, he wasn't very good. Like, I was like, you're kind of like absolutely contorting yourself to bring in like Canadian Peter Mrazek. Like why? Like, it's not that good. Don't worry about it. You're all right.
Yeah.
You'll be fine with whoever else you have. And it's just kind of, that's the part that always, I just went, why are you doing this to yourself? Like, you don't have to. He's not that good. He's never been as good as he was supposed to be. But that's the whole thing with prospect pool and rankings and what have you. If a guy's good when he's 17, he'll get 19 billion chances. You know what I mean? But
we saw it here with the Oliver Wahlstrom last year. It was like his 8th chance to do something.
Yes. Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. I don't even know where he is now. I think he's in the San Jose system. I think he's in with their minor. That's the last thing I knew. That's where he was. But yeah,
like in terms of seat, like he's been around. He's been in the league for almost a decade, I would estimate.
Yeah,
not quite 10 years.
2018 first round pick. Yeah.
Year after year, it's like, all right, maybe this is the year he figures it out, and then he just doesn't.
Oh, right. Oh,
It
it's the same thing with like quarterbacks. If you're a first round pick and it's quarterback, you're gonna get 9 chances. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you could be absolute garbage, but you're gonna get 9 chances because you're a first round pick. All right. Some teams get it wrong though. You know what I mean? Like,
it's funny how that works though. Like sometimes they are legit and they just ended up in a terrible situation. Like Baker Mayfield leaves Cleveland, goes to Tampa and plays a lot better. Sam Darnold has had a couple good years getting away from the friggin' Jets and then the Niners after that. He finally landed in some good spots. Just funny how that goes sometimes. Those guys aren't going to win Super Bowls, but
No. I mean, I think it's funny that, where we were a year ago, I was like, ooh, we might be entering the bad era of goaltending. Like I was like, we might be going down a dark path here in terms of goalies. I think it's especially true at the Canadian level. I think a lot of kids want to be Connor McDavid more than they want to be Marty Brodeur. And back in the day, there were so many great Canadian goaltenders that like you want to be like them. Yeah, like look at Canada's goaltending. Like look at the way it's kind of dried up in recent years, and I think it's funny because I do think that in places like Sweden and the U.S., you're seeing more goaltending prospects because of guys like Jonathan Quick, Ryan Miller, Henrik Lundqvist. Like they want to be like those kind of guys. So I do think it's funny that like nationality wise, it feels like we're seeing more more American and more Swedish goaltenders that are like truly elite because they want to be like those guys. Whereas in Canada, you want to be like McDavid and Crosby and McKinnon. Like it is sense. Intriguing. Yeah.
I think we're seeing that. Yeah, we're definitely seeing that with the Canadian centers. I feel like we'll start to see that with defensemen too because of Cale Makar. It is funny to look back, like who was the big guy that they were all watching growing up, and then it sort of comes to fruition 10, 15 years later.
Well, think about when we were growing up, you had Patrick Waugh, you had Marty Brodeur, the later era, you had Roberto Luongo. Like you had guys that, as a Canadian kid, you'd be like, hell yeah, that guy's the best in the world in his position. Like I think the same thing with like you had a lot of Russian goaltenders for a long time because you had Hobby Bulin, right? And the Bulin wall, and I know he's not Russian, but like, you had Dominik Hasek was a great European goaltender, and so it is intriguing how that kind of stuff unfolds over the years. But yeah, bringing it back to what I was saying though, like you got a lot of young goaltenders that are coming up now, and you're like, whoa, okay, not bad, but the league is in such a good spot right now that having these goaltenders break out, like a Jesper Wallstedt, like a Philip Gustafsson, Swayman here in Boston, although Sunday wasn't a great game for him, like. It gives me some hope that things are not going to be as dour as they looked at that position, say a year and a half ago, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like it all goes in cycles, right? So like we're going to see a lot more. We're going to see more American goalies coming up, and then we'll see who emerges as the best guys, and then they'll probably influence a whole new generation, but beneath them. That's just sort of how it goes. So I don't know, like honestly, Ty, my commentary is kind of useless in the last 2 Bruins games because
my God.
First of all, there was that St. Louis game, which I was sitting there watching it to for pod prep for the most part. My internet decided to just shut off right when they scored the go-ahead goals. And so, get cable, I guess, could be someone's response to that. But I have cut the cord. I use the Nesson 360 app, which is actually pretty spectacular on Amazon Fire Stick, truth be told. But yeah, look, all of a sudden, like my internet just shut off. I had to do the whole like unplug the modem and plug it back in. Not that whole ordeal. I had to stand up and go unplug something.
Yeah.
But it was just random. But it happened to be like right when the Bruins scored those 2 go-ahead goals, so I had to go back and rewatch that. And then yesterday I was busy with the Patriots and then post game and doing the pod with Barth and sitting in traffic. Absolutely miserable. Maybe the top 5 worst commutes of my entire life was getting to Gillette Stadium yesterday. So that was a whole day ordeal. I didn't really get to see any of the Bruins Wild games. Saw some of the highlights.
You didn't miss anything, Matt. You didn't.
I miss anything? Was my question.
You missed Alex Steve scoring again, and you missed Andrew Peeke scoring on a goalie for the first time since joining the Bruins. That's what you missed. The latter, of course, is really fun, and we shouldn't miss that. But
I saw that tweet. Peeke scoring on it, so he has a couple empty netters.
He's got 3 goals with the Bruins, 2 of which were empty netters. So, and naturally, the first one on a goalie comes in a 6-1 game with under a second left in regulation. Because
Oh, really? That's how it happened?
why would good things happen? No, yeah, you didn't miss much, man. But big picture wise, 4 or 6 points, I'll take that. Because I thought they would lose at least one of these games. I thought St. Louis would be really charged up after getting their ass kicked in Boston the week before. Winnipeg is still trying to prove that they can win without Connor Hellebuck, so I was expecting a spirited effort from them. And then Minnesota goes out and acquires Quinn Hughes, which I want to talk more about in a minute. But, a 2-1 road trip, I'll take that. I just, that's, if you're ever 500 or better on a 3-game road trip, I think that's what you want, right? Like if they went 2-1-1 or 1-1-1, I would have been happy. They go 2-1. So they're a point over what I would have expected as a good road trip for them. And so it does, however, though, speak to the expectations of this team perhaps being adjusted in a higher manner now that they have won some games and they have proven that, they might be a legit team in this division until proven otherwise.
I actually forgot about the Winnipeg game too. My vacation time last week had already started. And, like when I take time off from here, I try to take time off from sports because otherwise it's all sports all the time for me when I'm at work. If that makes sense, like people might get confused by that. It's like, what do you mean you don't watch sports on your time off? Or it's like, well, I'm watching and writing and reading and talking about sports all the time when I'm at work. And so time off is time away from that. So I actually didn't see a second of that Winnipeg game either, but was that a legit win? Like, did that feel like they earned that one?
Yeah, I thought it was a good win. I thought it was, I would say, their cleanest third period of the season, arguably. They're up after 40 minutes of play. They get an insurance marker to stay ahead early, and they only allow 5 shots on goal in the third period. I thought that was an example of their identity wearing Winnipeg out and allowing them to kind of thrive in the third period. Winnipeg was on fumes in that third period, and the Bruins kind of, in my opinion, choked them out. It was a very satisfying win if you're the head coach of the Boston Bruins, in my opinion. I think that's a win you can look at and say, that's who we are. That's who we got to be. That's who we want to be if we're going to win games down the stretch. And so I liked the Winnipeg win a lot. Now, I liked the St. Louis win even more, if only because, again, emotional. Montgomery has a 55-second press conference last Thursday in Boston. He's pissed after that loss. Then, when they see St. Louis again, St. Louis has won a couple games in a row. All right, hey, now we get a chance at revenge for what happened last week. Nope. Bruins say, not happening. Sorry, we're going to still win that game. And what I liked about that game, Matt, is that David Pastrnak comes back in a third line role. And what does he do? He immediately props up guys like Husadinov and Minton, and they have some great offensive nights. Like that's a great win in the sense that it tells you, oh, we can move Pastrnak around and he's going to make other guys better. Not that we don't already know that, Matt, but that might be something they have to do this year to get the most out of this offense if and when it dries up like many people think it will at some point.
Yeah, I mean, like they could even like pull a swerve on the opposing coach, try to catch him napping, or like mix up the lines during a game. All of a sudden, you got Pastrnak going up against bottom 6 guy or a guy that's like not known for his defense. Like, I don't know if Marco Sturm and his staff are that savvy just yet, but that would be nice to see. Like the consistency, I guess, is what they still need to work on. Because that was a great win over the Jets, where it's like this is our identity. We choked them out. That's all good. But can you follow that up? Can you keep that going? Can you string games together doing that? I know it's easier said than done when you lack the offensive firepower and you're pretty much predicated on the defense. You're not always going to lock every team down, especially like this team, even on defense. Like it's not like they're absolutely stacked. I was trying to come up with a historically great defense. Like I don't know, the Ducks when they had Pronger and Niedermeyer, like they're not quite that team just yet. And Shiger and Net, like they're not that, but it's good to know that like they have an identity and they sort of play to it, and that they can actually be effective against I mean, a talented team in Winnipeg. I don't think they're having quite as good a year as they did last year, but they obviously have the talent there. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's good.
that
That's good that
Winnipeg
they have
team,
that
man.
identity that they can pull that off.
Winnipeg, they really miss Connor Hellebuck. I've been talking about this on some podcasts and some on the hockey show, but like, I'm typically anti voting a goalie for the Hart unless they're like superhuman. Like I had Igor. I think Igor was the last one I had on my Hart, and he was phenomenal for the Rangers that year. Man, you're noticing how much Hellebuck does for that team now they don't have him and they have Eric Comrie being the starting goaltender. It is yikes. It is just not great timely saves that the Winnipeg Jets are getting right now. But they still have offensive firepower. To your point, they still have Scheifele, they still have Kyle Connor, two guys who've been great against the Bruins in their career. They do play a hard-nosed brand of hockey. That was a game where I kind of looked at and I said, ooh, good test for their identity, because they are a hard-nosed team. If they got Luke Shen on the back end, and I know, they got more than Luke Shen, but like that's a big boy you got back there, the big guy, physical guy. And so they met that challenge head on, I thought. And I thought that was a good showing in that regard. But I think the big thing, Matt, that we're kind of glossing over here, you mentioned the defense, is the return of Charlie McAvoy. I thought he was really good. He was really good in that Winnipeg game. He has a team high 33 shifts. They lose Jonathan Aspero in the first period, so he has to play more than they probably want him to play. I believe he finishes over 24 minutes. He's a +4 by the night's end. And the Bruins, when he was on the ice, outshot Winnipeg 11-5 and outscored them 3-0. When he was off the ice, they were outshot 16-8. It's a guy who's not eating solid foods yet, by the way. Just comes in and just has a casual +4 night and dominates on the shot differentials, and so and the scoring differentials for that matter as well. And so that's huge, right? Like, and it might be a lot of adrenaline in that first game back, and he's got to prove that it's sustainable. But with McAvoy, this is a player that we have constantly, I think, on this podcast and in general said, can he be more? Can he be this? Can he be that? Don't look now, Matt. I think he's been very good under Marco Sturm. It's kind of flown under the radar, in my opinion, how good he has been under Sturm in terms of his production, his stability. I think he's got like 16 points in 20 games. Like it's something weird like that, or 25 games. Like it's something, right? Like you wouldn't realize it, but when he left the lineup, and I might have the games played wrong, I admit, but when he left the lineup with that injury, he was top 20 in the league in scoring among defensemen. You wouldn't think that, right? But he's been good, and that's a good return because you're going to need to lean on him down the stretch here.
Well, he had a slow start, though, didn't he?
Yeah.
He was part of that bad lose. People probably are just stuck on that part.
Well,
a lot of them might have stopped watching at that point.
Yeah. Well, also, I thought it was illuminating. We spoke to him before they left last Monday for the road trip, and kind of asked him about Marco's system and, what would have been the hardest things to learn. And he was like, neutral zone was pretty hard. Like learning that out of the gate was pretty difficult. D zone, neutral zone. And that's a lot of where McAvoy kind of gets going, right? I mean, naturally he's a defenseman, so it's always going to begin there. But when McAvoy is the McAvoy we know and we love, that neutral zone play is very important for him, whether it's making that great pass to spring an odd man rush or carrying it himself. Like if he's saying, hey, well, that was hard at first, it's like, okay, it kind of makes a little bit more sense now, right? Like learning that part of the game, given how important it is to the success of this team. If he was struggling with that out of the gate, well, then the whole operation is going to struggle a little bit. And I feel like he's been better there. They had a chance in the Minnesota game. Nothing came of it, but it was one of their better looks where he gets the puck and he notices that the Wild are kind of flat-footed, and he's like, oh, I'm going to jump now. And he jumped, and he had a great chance, and they had a great opportunity. Lindholm held on to the puck a little too long, but like, all right, it's clicking, like the system is clicking for him now. And I think that's important for this team as well.
I was actually going to ask about the on ice differentials, like how much of it was him driving the play, driving possession, and how much of it was him sort of locking things down in the defensive zone. I assume it's the offensive side of it because of what you're saying, how he, saw the opportunity and took it offensively. But that's sort of actually what I was saying on one of our recent pods. It might have been the last episode where it's like I kind of want him, dominating in the defensive end with this system and this head coach, and especially the way he can impact the game physically. But if he could sort of pick his spots and then pick the right times to sort of drive the play, like he could be a weapon across the whole sheet of ice. Like I feel like he's sort of had struggles with that, and part of that might have been like in recent years, not just this year, like over the course of his career. Some of that might have been that he wasn't getting the right coaching for that. Like I'm not sure Jim Montgomery was the guy to really tell him, when to sort of pick your spots offensively and when to sort of hang back. But I don't know. Maybe Marco Sturm is sort of getting through to him on that end. Do you think like how much of a percentage would you say was like just him driving the play offensively as far as driving the advantage in the shot attempts and the goals? Like, was that more of just him driving it offensively? But like, I guess you said like he made better decisions. So like, that's what I'd like to see is him making better decisions and not being too aggressive.
Confident strides, confident decision-making. I think his skating has been very good since coming back. And now it's only 2 games, I know. And so we have to kind of manage that and watch that and see how it develops here as this homestand begins on Tuesday. But I do feel like he is more confident in what he can and can't do in the system. I mentioned this on this podcast before, but Marco said after one of their losses this year, like, our guys aren't going to lead the rush. They can support the rush, but they can't lead the rush. Talking about his defensemen. And I think you're seeing Charlie kind of figure out what that means for a guy like him. He's still going to take some chances, but they're not going to be as boom or bust as they typically have been in years past, right? Like there's proper support, there's proper communication, there's proper, cycling, reloading, whatever term you want to use. Like they're finding the ways to get offense out of these guys without it being a detriment to the overall structure and system. Guys like Mason Lohrei are not going to be perfect. They got to compete more, but guys like Charlie, I think, have the brain and the processing power to know what they can and can't get away with right now in this system. And I think it's, it's interesting. There's a lot of video work that happens with this team right now where they kind of, they go over where things were a month ago or 2 months ago, and now where they are now. And they're like, this is how we got to play. And I think it's just connecting for a lot of guys, Charlie being one of them. But I think to your point, like Charlie, and you've said this before, I'm pretty sure, but like Charlie's always at his best when he is sort of not trying to do everything. Like, hey, you be the hammer right now. You're good at that. Hey, you be the puck mover. You're good at that. It's when he tries to do everything in the world that it's like, oh, okay, maybe rein in a little bit here. Like I do believe the best he's ever looked was in that 4 Nations tournament playing opposite Rowensky. It was like, oh, you just got to worry about being Charlie McAvoy right now. You don't got to be Cale Makar. You don't got to be the power play quarterback. You just got to be Charlie McAvoy, and you're a just damn good defenseman. Right. And so, that's something that I think he's figuring out what he has to be for Marco's system to be, operate at maximum efficiency, I would say.
Yeah, like I think he'll be at his best when he puts that all together. And I feel like, I've been saying for years, I'm not giving up on him. Like there are people that have maybe been giving up on him last couple of years because it's like, is he ever going to figure it out? I think this is what he is. Well, it's like, no, guys sort of tend to flourish in their late 20s. A lot of these guys. Yeah. And so maybe Marco Sturm is finally unlocking that because like maybe this is the coach he needed all along.
Well, it brings natural segue to kind of what I want to talk about as well, which was Quinn Hughes, right? That trade. Quinn Hughes goes from Vancouver to Minnesota, basically for 4 first-round picks. Marco Rossi was a first-round pick. Liam Ogren was a first-round pick, and the defenseman there, Zeev Bayum. I'm not sure if I'm saying it. Boyum, yes, yeah. All first-round picks, right, for Minnesota, and so that's a trade that you look at, and we've talked about the Bruins. We talked about them adding. We've talked about them needing a defenseman. That's a reminder, and Quinn Hughes is a terrific defenseman, probably the second best defenseman in the league behind Cale Makar, arguably. That's an example of a trade the Bruins are currently not positioned to make. They're just not there yet. Because what would the Bruins equivalent of that trade be? It'd be Pavel Zacha, it'd be Dean Letourneau, or James Higgins, Fabian Lysell, and a future first-round pick. They're not built to make that kind of trade yet. They're just not. Like, they're not that close to winning, right? And it's so tantalizing because we did just talk about Charlie McAvoy and how good he is when he's playing opposite a player like a Quinn Hughes or a Zach Werenski, but like they're just not there right now, right? It's a reminder of this team still has to rebuild a little bit more before they can take a swing like that, as tantalizing of a player and the ceiling of that kind of player. Like they're just not there yet, it feels like.
No, they're definitely not there. I think they're in a spot where A, you got to draft better, and B, don't give up your draft picks. You had like they did great to sort of replenish the restock the draft picks last year. Don't all of a sudden turn around and give that all away for one player. Like one player is not necessarily going to turn things around. I don't think even Quinn Hughes would have been a guy that is going to transform the franchise, at least the way they are right now. So yeah, no, I get what you're saying. They're definitely weren't in that spot. Quinn Hughes, yeah, a great player. Like I want to see him do it in the playoffs, and like I guess this will be his big opportunity because now Minnesota is pretty loaded there. I'd consider them one of the top favorites to go all the way, even though they haven't really made it that far yet. But I just think they're loaded.
Think about that second round matchup that could be Colorado and Minnesota. Like the playoff
great format.
Yeah, right. I mean, that should be a conference final probably, but it's going to be a second round matchup probably in this format. But think about the run and gun hockey that is going to be played. And what's crazy about both those teams is that both those teams, I think, have really good defenses as well and really good goaltending. The Avalanche have had great goaltending between Blackwood and Wedgwood this year. And the Wild, as we talked about, have had great goaltending between Gustafsson and Wallstedt. And so two teams that are just electric, right? In terms of how they play and the momentum they can generate, the downhill speed they have, while also being backed up by excellent goaltending. But it did make me wonder, like, if the Bruins were to make a trade for Rasmus Anderson, he's a step below Quinn Hughes, but are you still parting with what's equivalent to 3 first-round picks, or 3, a future first and your top 2 prospects or whoever, like, and is that something that this Bruins team should do? I wonder, like they're in a really unique and interesting spot because I do think that they need a defenseman. But I also think the best way to acquire that defenseman is through the draft. I do think that use that Toronto pick or your own pick, especially if it's in the top 15, to acquire a defenseman, to draft a defenseman, draft your next Charlie McAvoy, your next Brandon Carlo, whoever it is. But like, it's just like, do they have the patience for that? Especially if they're winning games right now under Marco Sturm. Like, this is something that I think Sweeney is going to have to wrestle with between now and the deadline. Is like, man, I really want to accelerate this, but am I going to set us back if I do that? Like, I think their deadline, I said this last week, their deadline last year may have accelerated their timeline by a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to risk going backwards now? Like, that's something that is going to be a challenge for them, because he is an aggressive GM when it comes to making trades. He has been aggressive, but I just feel like to get that defenseman, Matt, you got to get it through the draft. There's just a lot of guys that should be available to them in that 10 to 15 range, if that's where the Toronto pick or their own pick ends up. Like, that's where you get that guy, because you're not getting him in free agency and you're not getting him through trade without potentially compromising what you've built so far.
Yeah, no, I think the Wild were in position where it's like, we need to try to go win a Stanley Cup now. Like, we got pretty much all the pieces in place that we need. We signed Kaprizov. Like, we just need we got 2 great young goalies. We got other good forwards. We got a good 2-way forward like Joel Eriksson-Ek. We got Matt Boldy, who's a good young scorer. And so it's like, we're pretty well built now. Now let's go make the big hockey trade to get that one last piece. And I wouldn't be surprised if Quinn Hughes turned out to be that kind of piece for the Wild. But yeah, the Bruins are not in that spot. They were in that spot a few years ago, and they went all in, to your point, John Sweeney getting aggressive there. If he makes a big hockey trade like that, trades 4 first-round picks basically for one player, I think he's crazy if he did something like that. I think they need to sort of build back up, build another, like, a nice cache of young players and, replenish draft picks. They don't have close to all the pieces in place. They barely have, a handful of the pieces they need in place, let alone all of them. So yeah, I think we should be a few years away at least from the Bruins making that kind of move. But it's good to know that I think they're pretty well coached, and they got some good young pieces in place like Minton and Husnudinov. I think could be good, legit pieces for them on top of their established players. So I think they're getting there. But I want to see. I'd be fine if they just stood pat at the deadline, if not sold. got
Yeah,
more draft picks.
and I don't know if you saw this over the weekend. Elliot Friedman was talking about the Bruins and potentially adding, and he brought up Mateus Michelli, who would be a great. You'd love him. He's 5'10", and he is not all that imposing, and he can get knocked off the puck very easily. And but he's a winger. And I'm sitting there going, no, I'm passing. No, thank you. And it's not because of what I just said about his size and his play, but is he going to give you more than, say, Alex Steves is giving you right now, or Matty Poitras could give you, or Fabian Lysell could give you? I think that's a legit case to be made that, no, not really. And this is, again, where you have to resist the temptation of being a buyer. It's like, hey, we're in the playoffs, you should buy. It's like, yeah, but you're not like there yet. And so, like, really, what are you doing besides losing a second or a third round pick? Like, that's not worth it, in my opinion. If you have Victor Arvidsson, you don't need Mateus Michelli. That's how I look at that. And so, and if you have Fabian Lysell and Matt Poitras, you don't need Mateus Michelli. Like, you can avoid those kind of situations. And so, I don't want the Bruins to make their Lee Stempniak in 2016 move all over again, right? No. I don't want that. No, keep those picks. Those picks are valuable. You've arguably found players in those spots, whether that's a Cooper Simpson, who's having a great year in the USHL, whether that is Chris Pelosi having a great year at Quinnipiac. Will Zellers was a second-round pick, I believe. Granted, he wasn't your second-round pick, but you acquired him. He's a second-round pick. So, like, you can find players in that range. I don't want to trade that for, like, patchwork fixes if your ceiling is still second, third round at the very best, right? And so I feel like that temptation, you have to resist that, right? And I think especially you have to consider here, Matt, as well, this team is probably going to end the year with James Higgins on their roster. So, like, is Mateus Michelli giving you more than James Higgins? I don't know. I don't think so. So why mortgage pieces that you want to leverage for either your own prospect pool or higher leverage kind of players, like a bona fide top sixer, a bona fide top four defenseman? So that's kind of where I am. Don't aim low. I'd rather not do anything than aim low. That's how I feel. It's similar to you, I feel like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Don Sweeney is going to resist the temptation. I don't think he's that crazy. I don't think he's going to do anything too stupid when it comes to, managing assets at the trade deadline. I think that's how he's always been good with trades. Like, I feel like there's the list of, like, truly bad trades he's made is pretty short, I think. And, like, you have to go back to the beginning, like the Stempniak moves and Drew Stafford or whatever to really point those out. So I'm not too worried, but, like, yeah, I think we're in lockstep on what we don't want them to do coming up here.
Well,
I think they're playing well. They're playing well enough that, like, they're not ready to make that big move, and then, like, a middling move doesn't really make sense because they have stuff in the system that could give them something similar.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like the Stafford move, I didn't hate that in theory, right? Because it was like a fifth round conditional sixth that became like a fifth or a fourth. Like, something like that is okay, but, like, at the same time, like, I don't know if this market's going to bear that kind of trade out because of how many teams want to be in it, right? How many teams want to try to make a splash of some sort. Not a super deep trade market as is, right? And so if the prices are inflated, then it's like, rather not, right? And I think the other part of it too, like I've mentioned this before, is that this team is kind of like, reminds me a little bit of like Brad Stevens and the Celtics, like figuring out, okay, who's part of our core and who's not. I would like to find out if some of these guys can play playoff hockey, and I'd like to do that, without carving out minutes for guys that are not going to be here beyond this year. Like as Mason Lohrei. One of the reasons why I'm still a believer in Mason Lohrei is because I saw how confident he looked in the playoffs in 2024. Yeah, like he had a really good playoff run for the.
There was a week there where we were talking about, oh my God, he might be a stud. This Mason Lohrei.
Right, and Lohrei was a guy who, reminded me of Torrey Krug in that regard. Torrey Krug came up in 2013. You're like, wow, he's not afraid at all. He, like, wants these moments. That's awesome, right? Like, you need more of those kind of players. And so you got to find out who those guys are. Like, I still don't know if Morgan Geekie is that guy. I don't know if Pavel Zacha is that guy. Pavel Zacha has not had good career playoff numbers. Like, if you get in, I want to see what those guys can do, right? I want to see if you can truly lean on those players to be impact players for your team, right? And so, like, that sounds weird, but it is sort of trial by fire, baptism by fire. Like, I want to know if these guys are true core pieces or not. And I feel like, I don't want to lessen their responsibility. If anything, I want to put more on their plate and see if they can hang, because that's how you're going to know if you got the right kind of core or if you got to make, that Nathan Horton kind of trade where it's like, nah, like these guys are fine, but they're not it. So we're going to bring in a guy that we think could be it.
See, I think Geeky could be that guy. I think Geeky's got that fire in him.
He does, for
come
sure.
up with like a generic, like, nebulous kind of something you can't quantify. I think he's got that juice inside of him that I think could make him a good playoff performer, or at least a guy that's, competitive and tenacious and you could depend on. Zaka, to me, is kind of the opposite. I don't think he really has that fire in him. Very talented player, but I just don't know that he has that extra gear. So we'll see. But yeah, I could see Zaka being one of those guys where it's like he's not going to be part of our future, so he can be a trade chip for us. I could see that happening.
Yeah, and I think to your point about Geeky, one of the things that is super noticeable with him this year has been his knack for scoring a timely goal. Whether it's late in regulation or the team down in the third period and want to get back in the game, like he's been the scorer in a lot of those situations, and so that makes you feel confident about his ability to be that guy. But playoffs are a different animal, right? And so I do think that that's something that I think Zadorov would be a good playoff guy. Like when the Bruins signed him, I talked to people out west who watched him a ton, and they were saying like you're gonna love him in the playoffs. Like he's a guy that you're gonna really be happy he's on your side in the playoffs. And even Lindholm, I thought had a good playoff for Vancouver before he joined the Bruins. And so like you got some guys you look at and go, all right, like maybe you got a playoff team here, right? But there are some other pieces, the younger pieces, that I still want to see how they look, in that spot. And James Hagan is gonna be a great example of that if they get in while they have him. Like, how do you use him, right? How do you deploy him? Does he make your roster? Like out of the gate, like they got some guys that there's a lot of curiosity there, right? And I want to see them do it. I'm not entering the trade deadline or deadline season saying, oh, we got to upgrade Murat Husadinov. No. I want to know if Murat Husadinov is a playoff guy, because he might be. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I want to see it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's going to be, look, I'm glad that they're playing well enough. They're in the hunt. They're in the mix. And so like, we're not, because, like the first couple of weeks of that season with that losing streak, we're like, oh my God, are we going to even have a team to talk about for the next 6 months? What the hell are we going to talk about, Ty? But they've done well enough, and so they have enough interesting storylines to follow and things like that, and players having good years, and still plenty to talk about, Ty. But we're gonna wrap it up there. We gave the people almost an hour. I thought maybe we'd have a quick one here because it's kind of free form, and we're kind of all over the place right now when it comes to sports and what life, Christmas shopping, my vacation time. Grimm trying to kill birds in the windowsill. Like there's just all kinds of things we got to focus on. So I'm glad we were able to sit down and just talk.
Yeah, I wanted to get your opinion on this because I know you're a film guy. Rob Reiner, sad story out of LA with Rob Reiner. What is your favorite Rob Reiner role or film that he did?
I
know I'm putting you on the spot here. I know
it's hard to top Meathead from All in the Family. That show,
right.
I watched some of that recently. There's plenty of comments that Archie Bunker makes where it's like, well, can't say that on TV anymore. But it's like he almost couldn't say that back when he said it.
Right.
Like he's one of those guys where it's like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff where it's like, okay, I don't agree with that comment, but like every now and then he gets through where it's like, okay, he's kind of making a point there. But like the point is that he was sort of a buffoon. And like that whole dynamic between him and Meathead, like that was a great show. And Reiner as a director, it's kind of interesting because like he can make almost any kind of movie, and he kind of lets the screenwriter and the actors do he lets them sort of speak for themselves, if that makes sense. Like he was never flashy. He just kind of makes like pretty straightforward. Like the pacing's good in his movies, but it's like very straightforward in terms of what happens. He kind of lets the actors carry the show, and like he always teamed up with good screenwriters like Aaron Sorkin for Few Good Men. So yeah, it's like I wouldn't say there was anything like distinctive about his directing, but he obviously the guy knows how to make a good movie. It's like you go back to like the 80s and 90s. I feel like that was almost like a golden age for just like well crafted, like good, solid, rewatchable kind of fun movies, which is like what movies have like really should be, other than unless you're like an avant-garde artist kind of filmmaker. Like someone's going to the movies and you're making some popcorn, you're going to the theater, or whatever. You want to have a fun time, and so like he was good at that. Like the run from in the 80s to 90s with the Stand By Me, Princess Bride, Misery is a good horror movie. Like all different kinds of movies. A few good men, like all these different kinds of movies all in a row. It's like the guy just knew how to put a movie together. So yeah, it's horrible the way it ended. I mean, crazy story out of there. But yeah, no, he was a good, solid filmmaker. I never really saw much of him as an actor other than All in the Family.
Yeah.
He's in Wolf of Wall Street.
I was
He's
gonna
kind of
say
a good role there.
his minor character in Wolf of Wall Street has some of my favorite quotes in that movie when he's like, "Who is calling the goddamn house on a Tuesday?" Because like his TV show is on. Like I love that.
He like rips his glasses off in disgust. It's like, come
Yeah.
on now, disrupting my time. I'm watching my shows.
Yeah, no, I didn't realize how deep his catalog was in terms of like, as to your point, like the variety of the movies that he made, where it's like Princess Bride, Stand By Me, When Harry Met Sally, Misery. You're like, wow, those are 4 very different movies right there.
Yeah.
like that's
All
kind
in
of
a row.
crazy. Yeah.
When Harry Met Sally was another one. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not a big rom-com guy, but like he made these like just rewatchable, fun, memorable, like they have memorable quotes. Like all his movies have memorable quotes, like "You can't handle the truth."
Yeah.
Which I think that was like an improvised line by Jack Nicholson. He went off script there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Rob Reiner deserves credit for that, where it's like, all right, he went off script, but let's keep that in. That was good stuff.
Yeah.
And so like I thought he just knew how to put together a good movie watching experience, which is why like people point at Princess Bride as one of their favorite movies, like very like, you know, rewatchable. Watch that a million times and it never gets old. Like he makes those kinds of movies, and it's hard to make people don't make those kinds of movies anymore. Really, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of rewatchable movies out there. But yeah, no, like we kind of lost a good, solid entertainment person. Just a good entertainer.
Yeah. Misery is one of those movies that I watched it for the first time in like 15 years, like a few months ago during like around Halloween. And I forgot just like how anxiety inducing that movie is, which is like a credit to, again, the director and the writing to, you know, I, as someone who read the book, you know, like the film does a great job of capturing the anxiety, right? And like sort of like the oh my god, can he make it? Can he make it? Kind of scenes that are in that movie.
The book is incredibly fucked up. He had to tone it down.
Oh yeah,
from the book.
No, absolutely, yeah. That's my favorite story is they had to tone down Gremlins, which was supposed to be rated R, which he didn't do, I know, but like Gremlins was supposed to be a much more fucked up movie than it actually ended up being. Like it was gonna be real bad. They're gonna like put like the mom's head in the microwave or something like that. Like it was gonna be something real messed up.
Wait, Rob Reiner didn't do Gremlins though, did he?
No. I'm just saying like that's another
side piece. Okay,
yeah.
But Joe, what's his name? The directed Gremlins.
Oh, Dante.
Joe Dante. Yes.
Yeah. No, but yeah, I couldn't believe that story.
R.I.P.
Last night.
I don't know if
saw that. No, I have no idea. Gremlins they should bring back, but you know, that's neither here nor there.
They'll reboot that at some point.
Yeah, but they got to make them like puppets, basically. They still gotta be puppets.
I feel like they will do that. They won't overdo the CGI. That would suck.
What do you think about the Street Fighter? Before we get out of here, the Street Fighter teaser. What do you think of that?
Oh, I didn't see it yet.
Yeah, so it's like a 45-second Street Fighter teaser. Looks, I don't know, right? I'm kind of looking at it like, if it's self-aware enough to realize that it's kind of campy and kind of goofy, then I'm in. But if it tries to pitch itself as like a serious, you know, like whatever, like I'm gonna be like, I don't know if I love this. Like I saw the Mortal Kombat, the new reboot that came out during COVID. I saw it and I was like, oh, they're like not self-aware of like, this is a video game kind of movie. Like they were trying to make it like a samurai, you know, kind of kung fu movie, which I was like, all right, like sure. But I don't know, you're kind of delving into like mythology with like Sub-Zero and Scorpion. So like maybe embrace the campiness a little bit.
Yeah.
I hope that they're a little bit self-aware enough to realize like it should be fun and not like a serious movie, but you can't tell from this trailer. It's my only worry is that they're going to think it's like a super serious movie and not something fun.
I would hope they you gotta have fun with it, but you also gotta have a good script You know what I mean? Like you go back to the 90s Mortal Kombat movies, they were self-aware. They embraced the silliness and the camp, but just the worst, just horrible acting and writing. Like they had
never give up hope.
If you had, yeah, for no, what does that mean? What I don't know who are you talking to? Yeah, like that whole like, very poorly written and not good acting like that could ruin a movie. So it's like that's just like another to my point with Rob Reiner. His movies are very well written and good acting. So they sort of carried the show there.
And
we're
supposed to get a Doomsday trailer this week, so
okay.
I'll be watching with bated breath.
I'm sure they won't give much away.
No, right? I'm very nervous. Dr. Doom obviously is my favorite character in anything whatsoever. I'm very terrified. I'm very nervous. It stresses me out because if they mess this up, that's bad. That's real bad.
Why did I still don't understand why Robert Downey Jr. is Dr. Doom. I don't understand.
So it's fine if he doesn't take off the mask, like because Doom never takes off the mask. But if he does, and it's a Tony Stark variant, I'm gonna be so pissed because that's so stupid. He should be Victor Von Doom. I know, but
why would you waste money casting Robert Downey Jr. if you're not going to show his face?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. At the same time, though, they had Tom Hardy as Bane, and you never really saw his face aside from the mask that's broken at the end.
So even Tom Hardy wasn't like the biggest star in Hollywood.
No, that is true. It makes me nervous. Makes me nervous that it's going to just be like a Tony Stark variant, which I really don't want.
Yeah,
that's not the story.
I wouldn't want to see Dr. Doom be like, well, the Avengers are causing a lot of problems here.
Right, exactly.
You take care of this problem here. Like it's not. He doesn't have the right demeanor to play Dr. Doom. I don't think.
Right. No, I would agree with that.
Yeah, if he gets all Robert Downey Jr.-y, it's kind of that alone might ruin the performance.
Yeah, for sure. So, well,
all right.
We'll keep it. I'm gonna keep it hopeful. I'm a little nervous. I do think that Fantastic Four was a good movie, though, in my opinion. So I'm my hope, and the Russo brothers are good. So like I do have optimism. I'm not completely down on where the direction of Marvel is going, but this is a big character for me. So I'm very protective, I would say, of the character. I want to
say those guys made something that's like horrible. Made the new Netflix movie by Russo. I'm Googling it right now as we continue some bone. Yeah, The Electric State.
That was
absolutely brutal reviews.
Yeah, that was not good from what I understood.
So I don't know. Like, hopefully, I mean, they obviously did much better work with the Avengers stuff. So
yeah,
like obviously, like Infinity War and Endgame are great. So you just gotta have hope. There's a lot of talent there. It's kind of hard to screw up, right?
Yeah, one would hope, but we'll see.
We'll see. You got to keep your fingers crossed. All right. Some bonus movie talk here on the Sports Hub Underground to close things out. We gave the people an hour. So good stuff, Tom. I'm glad we were able to grind that out. So after tomorrow, I am off other than the Patriots game coming up against the Ravens. I'm basically off for like 10 days. So obviously you and I text back and forth. So we'll continue to stay in touch. But I am going to take a lot more time away from sports, and hopefully I'll be nice and reloaded and reset and ready to go in 2026. I'm just saying this because just in case this happens to be the last pod we do in 2025, because we might be able to sneak one in maybe a week from today, maybe at the very end of the year we might be able to sneak one in. We'll see. But just in case, it's been a good year for us in terms of the growth of the website and our YouTube channel and the whole station, not just us. So I think it's been a good year, and I know it's not always easy for us. We're always grinding. We have kind of a small team, and we have a lot on our plates. But I just want to tell you that I appreciate you, and I think you're the best in the business when it comes to Bruins coverage. And I'm glad you were able to come here and do the show today, and that we're still going. We're approaching our 200th episode time. We're going to hit that milestone in 2026. So here's to another good year, and hopefully an even better one coming up.
$26,000 in sides, Jordan. $26,000 in sides. That's we're gonna do for episode 200.
Blew the budget.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do that for the 200th episode. Yeah, no, this is great. I love doing this show. I thank you for the kind words. I don't agree with any of them, but I appreciate it nevertheless. Okay. And we're gonna have more fun next year as well. I'm happy with the podcast. I'm happy with how it's grown. I think a lot of it is DIY, which I think is fitting for us in a way. It is very, you have to find it. You have to enter a secret code. You got to knock 3 times and give us the password to get into the podcast. And that's what we like about doing the podcast.
Yeah, no, every listener is basically Leonardo DiCaprio in one battle after another. You've seen the clip. He doesn't remember the password. So it was a good bit in the movie.
Yeah, I like that. That's us.
Yes, passwords, Shug. It's very simple. SHUG, and we'll let you in. And then you gotta, do the handshake and spin around 3 times, throw salt over your shoulder, and then we'll let you listen to the pod. So it's honestly surprising we've been able to grow with all the hoops we make people jump through.
Yeah, I hard agree.
All right, Ty, I know you got stuff to do, so I'll let you go. All right, any closing thoughts? No?
Nope.
Good. All right, thanks. If you made it this far, thanks. I love you. Whether you're listening or watching, this is the Sports Hub Underground. This is a remote episode. We're sometimes on YouTube, but most of the time we try to be in the studio, a Studio Q at 98.5 The Sports Hub. We have good, lively conversations in there. So maybe we'll get in there one more time before the end of the year. But if this is the last podcast of 2025, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.